Welcome back. Let's do something new today. So I know that you guys heard me talking about how I wanted to do something that wasn't European for our Ultimate Decades Challenge. So what I have decided is to do my own kind of Ultimate Decades spin-off called The Age of the Samurai. So it'll take place during the years where samurais were active. So it begins in 710 and goes until, when does it go until? The 1800s. So we're only playing with samurais because samurais are cool. And I wanted to do something in Japan. I do like Japan and Japanese culture. I did Japanese as my language for college, and I did my study abroad there. So I figured that that would be a good place for me to start. And also, I just want to let you know that there is not a lot of CC available for, ancient Japanese stuff. So, unfortunately, it's probably going to look very similar the entire time. But if you guys know of any CC, let me know because I did some pretty extensive research and could not find any. So that was my problem. But let me get into this. It's an Ultimate Decades Challenge, The Age of the Samurai, of course, based off of Morbid Gamer's Ultimate Decades Challenge, where samurai existed in Japan from their rise to their decline. We're not going to be historically accurate, sensitive content, you know the deal if you do watch any Ultimate Decades challenges. We're going to keep a similar spreadsheet. You can see it here. Similar spreadsheet. We're just starting in different years. And I made the rules a little bit more difficult for, before the 1300s. So I figured it'd be even easier to die before then. So that's the deal. I've linked Morbid's stuff. I spelled some things wrong. I'm using Family Echo right now as my family tree. Unfortunately, the Plum Tree app is gone. Also, I'm going to be doing this challenge on Saturdays, and but my regular Ultimate Decades Challenge does come first. So if I don't have enough videos for that, I will forego this in favor of that. So just keep in mind that there may not be consistency. There might be. I'm not really sure yet. So the challenge begins in 710 during the Nara period. Each sim year is 4 days. We will customize the ages. You can all read this. I will put a link below. Also, using MCCC, we will do risky woohoo so that we can have realistic pregnancies. For inheritance, for the most part, we're going to go with the eldest male child rule. However, that will change during some of the time periods, but I have written that into each time period rules. So, but if your story calls for it, break the rules. I don't care. And also, right now, this is just my rough draft. I'm about to do my test, which is where I'm going to play through a family with these rules and see what needs to be tweaked or not tweaked. So this might not be the final version. I'm not really sure yet, but totally feel free to play and let me know if you're doing this because I think it's super fun and I love to hear about everyone's Sims and share that with everyone. So that is great. So let's talk about starting. We start with 2 parents and 3 children. The eldest male child is your starter sim. Each sibling gets 10 baby tries. You know how it works. It's the same rules as Morbid. We're going to get a starter home and set money to 0. We'll roll immediately for the parents. I actually already did that because I put a lot of older sims in this and I rolled for all of them. So careers. Samurai did have many careers, but not all of them are available to every financial class or unaffiliated sim. So if you're in a clan, you have more career opportunities and all of that. So military service. As a peasant, you're allowed to enlist, but you cannot become an officer if you're using the Regency Romance mod. Bodyguarding, you can become a knight using the royalty mod. There are a lot of mods that you would probably need for this. I'm using mostly the same mods that I use for the regular Ultimate Decades Challenge, though. But we kind of have to pretend, right? Regency Romance obviously is not happening in this area during this time period, but we can use some of the things that the mod has. You can be in law enforcement, estate administration. Obviously, that is not something that peasants can do. Court service advisors, again, only for higher class sims. And complete odd jobs, errands, community jobs, etc. Women's careers were limited, of course, as per usual. Court ladies, who are well-educated, high-class women who do literature and arts. Poetry was very popular. Taking care of the family, you become a nun or priestess. Domestic crafts and selling your wares. Entertainment, as in court events. Again, that's probably not really for a peasant. I also wanted to put in different activities and rituals that you can do with your Sims in their free time. So there are things like poetry and literature, music, dance, tea parties, flower arranging, calligraphy, painting, all of this stuff. But samurai in particular must practice the athletic skill, the wellness skill, and then if you use mods, archery and swordsmanship. Also, if you want to include religion, because Buddhism is really big in this area, we would be having, if you use rambunctious religions, I would recommend the Congregation of the Cow Plant because that gives you a boost on wellness skills, which is what we'll be focusing on. Samurai rituals, here are just some things that you can do, sword dedication ceremonies, meditation, tea ceremonies. If you have to do it in your story, you can always do it. But we are going to start in the Nara and Heian period, which is from 710 to 1185. During this time, Japan started to shake off Chinese influence and reestablish their own culture and writing system. Samurai were just starting to become powerful because due to political unrest, they were needed by landowners to protect their land, which they took from commoners who couldn't pay their taxes. So here are some rules for this period. Each period gets information about courtship, marriage, divorce, inheritance, all that kind of stuff. We are going to start here, though, with courtship. The arts are important during this time, so write poems and love letters. You can do that during with the Regency Romance mod. Unmarried Sims don't really have a lot of chances to interact, so if you are not getting in an arranged marriage with your with like a family friend, someone your parent sets up for you, then you'll have to meet your future spouse at an event or a festival. Most Sims actually marry as young adults unless they're really wealthy, and then in which case the female Sims may marry as teens. Most Sims are monogamous, but if a wealthy Sim has enough money to maintain more than one household, they could be polygamous. Dowries are given to the groom's family and are typically items such as land, jewelry, textiles. So you can send your poor daughter with a woodworking table. That would be, or cheat for the money to buy a woodworking table. So it's something that can support the family. If you are using Regency Romance, you might want to buy an estate for your wealthy Sims and have them give the estate as a dowry. So otherwise, you can just use Morbid's numbers. That's fine. So just think about what would be an appropriate dowry for your heir when they get married. Divorce is allowed, but does have negative social repercussions. For weddings, you arrange the marriage, you find an auspicious day, exchange betrothal gifts, and the wedding will take place at the bride's home. Same-sex relationships were not uncommon, although they could not officially get married. Affairs were also common during this time period. But keep in mind, if you're playing a samurai and they have a code of honor, you should follow that code of honor. And if they don't, well, that's an interesting storyline too. Children and inheritance. You can adopt children, but it was usually for political purposes, to get an heir, to get more monks, to give opportunities, etc. If someone didn't have any sons, they might, adopt a son or something like that. Women do have the right to inherit it, but are usually last in favor of a male child. Your main sim is always going to be a samurai. That's the rule. Main sim are samurais. It can be a samurai as a woman, but it's not very common. I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. You can also have coming of age ceremonies. Now, one of the things that I did notice when I was doing my research is during these time periods, Sims would change their names on becoming adulthood, like adults becoming, through their life experiences. We're not going to do that. You can do that if you want, but I am just going to give them one name that they're keeping for their whole life. I can't keep track of that. So, miscellaneous. Off the grid, simple living, you know the deal. Here are the popular clans of the time if you want to add them into your game, having someone, some families from the different clans. Also, monasteries. Holidays. We have New Year's, the Doll Festival, Cherry Blossom Viewing, Obon, Harvest Festival. You can add in, take or leave as many holidays as you want. Dice rolls are for all Sims unless stated otherwise, which can happen. Household roles. Just the usual. 1 through 3, don't marry. 4 through 20, get married. These are my personal rules. 1 through 10, you can have a pregnancy. 11 and 12, you can't have any children. Here are the death rolls. I just added an extra number to make it a little more difficult. So let's talk about the events of this year. And then after this, I'm not going to go through literally everything. We'll just go over this time period. And then I'll introduce you to the family that I'm playing with. And that'll wrap up this introduction, which is probably going to be kind of long. But the events are obviously not completely accurate. I did tweak them a bit for easier gameplay, what the game can do. So anyway, during this time, the capital city was moved several times because monasteries were gaining a lot of power and became a threat to the emperor. So in 794, the capital was moved to Heian, which brings us from the Nara period to the Heian period, which would later become Kyoto. You can move your Sims closer to the court to help improve their situation. You don't really have to change lots, but you will have to pay higher taxes. So pay an extra $500 every year until the next event, in addition to your household bills. If you are playing any aristocratic families or monasteries, they don't have to pay taxes. If you run out of money, you must sell your land to a wealthy Sim and become exempt from tax. However, now that your land is owned by someone else, you must roll a d20. And if you roll every year until the next event, and if you roll a 5, your land will be attacked by bandits, and you lose 1,000 simoleons. So keep in mind whether you really want to sell your land to become exempt from taxes. And then in 911, we will be joining the Fujiwara clan. They are the most powerful clan of the time. They control the emperor. You can now bodyguard for middle-class Sims. I can join law enforcement, and marry into the clan. You can become an officer if you do. Every decade until the next event roll, d20, you have to fight for your clan against other clans and monasteries. If you roll a 5, 10, or 15, you are injured. If you roll a 20, you die. This includes all samurai. The clans were very turbulent. They were always fighting. So in 1028, Fujiwara, gosh, can I do this pronunciation? I'm so sorry. Michinaga dies, and the family loses control of the country. Landowners now have to hire samurai to protect their assets, causing the military class to gain power. You can now be hired to protect land, but be wary that your clan is losing power. The Minamoto and Taira clans are now starting to gain power. Consider, changing up your storyline to join a more powerful clan without, dishonoring your code. Definitely, I've made this challenge very story-based, so, I'm like, okay, switch this up, but if you're going to switch it up, make it believable, right? Your clan is declining. More battles are happening. Every year we're rolling. Includes all samurai in your game. We're fighting each other. Everything's happening. In 1050, the early 9 Years' War begins, so the Minamoto and Taira clans are fighting for control. So, in this case, you only have to fight if you're part of a clan that is fighting each other. So that's kind of the rules will change. But anyway, there are a few wars here. I'm not going to go through all of them, but there's a bunch of infighting during this start. But I hope that you're excited about this, because I am, and I think it's going to be so much fun. So I'm really excited about this. You can totally read through this document on your own. I'm not going to keep going, but let's introduce to our family. So this is our family. I'm going to start at the top. So here are the two parents that had 3 kids. Daitaro and Yukime were married, and they had our main sim, Akiteru. And basically what happened, this is going to be a long story. What happened is Yukime died in childbirth, so he immediately remarried Ginko. And they had 2 children, Shintaro and Haru. So since Akiteru is the eldest son, he was set to inherit the family farm. So they have a farm where they supply most of the, agricultural goods for the area. So they are, a pretty good family and pretty good standing. But, they're not, I wouldn't say they're upper class, but they have good standing. They have connections. So he was supposed to marry a family friend's daughter and inherit the family farm. However, his stepmother would much prefer that her son inherited over, the son that does not belong to her. So she kind of convinced the father to instead give everything to the second son. So that is something that comes up a lot in the challenge, is that there are certain cases where you can change your heir based on merit or story. So that is something that is happening here, is that they decided together instead to give Shintaro the bride, who ended up being Hanami, and the farm. So that happened there. He took everything from his brother, and Haru was married off to someone from the Taira clan. So he has a first wife, but they only had 2 daughters. So he married a second wife because he has a lot of money and influence. And he is hoping to have a son to inherit. But of course, his first wife doesn't really like this situation very much. She is not happy that she wasn't able to bear a son for him. So that is what happened here. So basically what happened is Akiteru decided to kind of run away from home. And in doing that, he met Daitaro. And not Daitaro, sorry. He met Kiyoyoshi. Also, forgive me for the names. I did a lot of research on how to name people, and I tried to. Like Yukiyama is like snowy mountain, and, in Mount Komorebi, there's snow at the top. So I was like, oh, we'll name them that. I was doing my best here. Anyway, I'll probably I was trying to Google like names in certain periods, and it just wasn't working. So anyway, you're just going to have to bear with me on the historical accuracy. But anyway, so he finds Kiyoyoshi, and Kiyoyoshi was formerly a samurai, and he fell in love with Matsu, who was above his social class, and they kind of ran away together. And in that, he abandoned his clan, which is not good for a samurai. So they're kind of social outcasts, and they have 1 daughter, and he did train her a bit in the samurai way, but he always wanted to find her a husband that could take their last name and, fulfill his dreams of building back up the family. He feels very ashamed that he did abandon his clan, even though he loves his wife and would never, regret being with his wife and his daughter, but he still, has that feeling of wanting to build their family back up again. So that is why when he saw Akiteru, who didn't have a family, didn't have anything going for him, he was like, hey, if you want to become a samurai and marry my daughter and bring my family back to glory, like, we can do this. So that's basically what happened. So this is the household we're playing with. We are going to play with all of them. He's going to be teaching Akiteru about being a samurai. That's like his mentor, and we're going to have a family and all that stuff. So that'll be fun. I know that that's immediately not what the rules say, but you know how it goes. So in the spreadsheet, we have the Taira children. We have Haru, our sister, who was a teen when she married as the second wife. We have a ton of young adults and a ton of elders based on their ages. Like, if I wanted to make their kids young adults, they couldn't be adults. They would have had the child when they were 10. So I rolled for all of these people to how much longer they were going to live for the rest of their life. So actually, Daitaro is the first one who's going to be dying. But yeah, so everyone is in here. And I did put a link for learning about some naming conventions into this tab. And here are the current side households and the family tree and the events. So also I did not have enough CC to make different colors. So why are you like this? I didn't have enough CC to make everyone a different color family. So we're just going to have to deal with it the way that it is. So I hope that you're excited about this. I am very excited. I am really, thinking it's going to be fun to play in a different location during a different time period. I think that that'll be really great. So I hope that you're excited for this, and I will catch you in the next one, where we start playing this for reals. Also, let me know if you have any suggestions. I am just making this from scratch, so I'm just trying to figure it out. So let me know if you have any suggestions, comments, etc. So, Or if you start playing it and you notice that any of the rules need to be tweaked, let me know. I'll see you next time.